Good day. My name is Theophilus Wakeme, a tutor in King David College. I welcome you to another lesson in core mathematics. Today, we are coming to discuss or learn about functions. We will start with what functions are, the types of functions, and then we'll go on to look at how to find the image of functions, and then we'll solve several examples. I hope today you are also going to enjoy the lesson just as the other lessons. Okay, so let's start. Functions. I believe we've all heard of functions and we know what functions are. So we know the types of functions that are available, and so we shall go on to look at the types, and then we look at the function notation, and then proceed to solve the examples. Right. So when we say function, a function is actually, let me put it this way, a function is more like a machine, a mathematical machine, okay? And in every machine, it accepts an input, and then processes it to give you a corresponding output. So we can liken a function to such relation. Okay, so let's say for every function, it will accept a number or a variable or an argument, processes the argument and gives you a corresponding output. There are various types of functions we have. We can have a many-to-many function. Many-to-many means that all the domains, the arguments are called the domains, and then the outputs are called the codomains. So many domains you have them in there are also mapped onto the codomains, right? And then we have many to one. That means several domains just maps to a single output. That's many to one. Before we have one-to-one functions. One-to-one functions. And normally the most common one is one-to-one function. Because if I give you the relation of the function and then give you a corresponding domain, then you should be able to generate its corresponding output. And that's normally what is there. But in special cases, you could have the other types of function as we look out to, right? So, now, let us give you the general notation for functions. General notation for functions. So every function has a name. And then this name also, it has an argument or whatever variable. So should we say the argument? And then this maps onto what? The expression or the notation, however you put it. So this is a general, should I say the general representation of a function. The name has an argument, and then the expression. Okay, so let's say for instance, a function called f, which accepts a variable x, okay? A function f accepts a variable x. So then, in that case, the function name is f, and then it accepts a variable called x, right? So this time around, x represents the input to the function, and then the f represents the name of that particular function. Okay, so when we give you this, then we tell you, okay, this function, what does it do? Or what is the operation of what this function? So every function that is given to you will be given maybe a particular expression or how it processes the input you give it. So for instance, let's say this function is 2x plus 6, okay? 2x plus 6. Then this becomes what? A complete function, where this function f accepts any inputs under the x name, and then it processes it this way. Are you okay? So we'll just get the various values for x, and then we will send it into our function to process it. Right. So every function has its own expression. It could be linear, it could be quadratic, where you have the same function x having, let's say, 2x squared plus 4x plus 2. This could also be another expression of what? The function. So with this one is a linear notation, and then this is a quadratic expression. Okay, a quadratic expression. So we have a linear and then a quadratic. Linear means the highest power of the argument or the input is 1. Okay, so then you have a linear function here. And then quadratic will be the highest power of the argument or the input becomes what? 2. So when that happens, then we say you have a quadratic notation of the function. Okay, or improvement, you could have f of x also being a cubic function, So that one will have behavior 2x cubed plus 4x squared plus 6x minus 1. And this one will refer it to what? Be a cubic function. So with this, just like this and this, the linear, the highest power is 1, quadratic, highest power is 2, in cubic, the highest power is 3. Okay, so the functions can be placed in whatever mean. Sometimes it can also be in the form of what? A fraction. In the form of a fraction. So you can have a function like this, 2x squared minus 1 all over x plus 1, and this is also accepted. So far you can see that the function is just an expression, right? An expression, or maybe a mathematical model that processes a specific input based on how it is defined. Okay, so every question and the function, you'll be given the expression or what the function entails, the argument, and then the expression you'll be given. Then you are just going to be asked for the images and all this, right? So with the intro to functions given to you, let's start from the very first task we could be given under functions. And that is to find specific images under the given function. Okay, so let's pick a linear function for a start. So let this function be there. Let me take off this. So we'll use this function. Let's pick this. Then with this function given to you, let's say they ask you to find the image. You can hear the word image, or image can be asked to define maybe the codomain, or you can be asked to find the result, anyhow you put it, but of a specific input under the function. So with this, let's say you are asked to find the image of, say, 2 under the function f of x. Okay, so you find the image of 2 under the function f of x. This is one of the simplest tasks they can give you in functions. The simplest. What this is saying is that you should find the answer or the results if my argument, which is the variable, the input to this function, is 2. Okay, So just find the result or how this function will process, what it will give out if I should supply an input of 2 into this function. That is what the question is saying. So if you don't see it, maybe you might see what? Domain. Codomain. Right? Like that. So it's the same idea. The very same idea. Or we can also this question can also be framed this way. You can just be asked to find f into bracket 2. So either you see the question framed this way or the question framed this way, it means the same thing. Find the image or f of 2, it means the same thing. So with this very one here, if you are given this situation, all you need to do is that this now, the value they are giving you in the question becomes your input to the function. So this value 2 now represents our x. So let's do the solution. So this value 2 here represents our x. So then when we call upon the function f of x maps to or you can have f of x is equal to, anyhow it puts, it's okay, 2x plus 6. Okay, then now we are saying that if our x is 2, what is going to be the codomain or the image? So simply put, we are saying that f of x is now 2. Okay, f of x is now 2. So if x is now 2, then you need that inside the expression as well. Wherever we find x, we are going to put 2. As simple as that. So wherever you find x in this expression, we are just going to put 2. So we just have this to be 2 multiplied by 2 plus 6. And therefore, my function f under the input of 2 is going to produce a result of what? 10. And that is basically what they are after. So this is, like I said, one of the easiest tasks to do. But just know how it is framed. It could either be framed this way or it could be framed this way. Either ways, this is what you are just going to do. The input given to you, we just have to substitute it into the function and then you get the corresponding output. Alright, let us look at another example. Let's say now I've changed my function from being this linear to a different one, which is a quadratic. So let's say this is 2x squared then plus 6x minus 5. Let's say I'm giving you this and I ask you to find the image, just like the same question, find the image of so let me say find f of 3 and then we will just find f of minus 2. So we find f of 3 and f of minus 2. So these are the two questions given to me. This is I, this is I. Okay. Now we are given this task. The question is, how do we look at this? So if you remember the previous solution, we said the function name is given to you which maps to this. And so whatever is in the bracket will also map to the general function. So simply, in I, our x given to us is 3. That is in I. Then in II, our x given to us is minus 2. So all you need to do when you are given this specific question is that you just need to, in place of the x's in the function, you put in the required inputs. Okay? So for this one, f of 3 is just going to be you bring out your expression here, and every time you see x here, you put in the input there. So this is just going to be 2 multiplying 3 squared is 2x squared. So our x is 3. So 2 to x is here, and then the squared. So this x here is squared. Please, you need to learn how to do the notation like this, because there is a way you can input this in your calculators and then you can get issues. Okay, so please just learn how to do this very well. Okay, so the square is affecting only the x. So bring the 2 out and then put the square on it. Right. Then plus 6 multiplying your x, which is 3, minus 5. So we have this our situation here. So this is 3 squared and then this is 3. So anywhere I see x, I'm putting these very ones in there. So that is going to be fine. Then, the rest is just simply type it on your calculator, or you can just reduce this thing with your hand. It's actually not so much a difficult task to do. Okay, so 3 squared will be 9. So 9 times 2 is going to be 18. So you have this side alone being what? 18. Then you have 6 3 is equally 18. Then minus 5. Okay, so what's here? 18 minus 5 is going to be 13. So when you add the 2, then you are going to have what? 31. Okay, so then that means that the image of 3 under this quadratic function over here is just going to be 31. Or the codomain, when the domain is 3, is just going to be 31. So either way, however the question is put, it's just a matter of substituting whatever input you are giving into the required function to get your output. I hope you are following the lessons. Great. Now let's look at II. I am particular with II because it gives challenges when you are punching on your calculator, okay? Because the idea is the same, but if you don't know how to punch it, it's going to give us different answers, okay? Now, let's bring the II down a bit. Let's bring it down. II, we said find the f of minus 2. Okay, so the same idea. Our x is now minus 2. So our x being minus 2 now, we just have to put it in the function to get our corresponding results. Right. So bring the function here, and anytime we see x, we put minus 2 over there. Now watch how I'll represent this. Watch how I'll represent it. So I can remove the bracket. So that I see this how the function will be given to you. But watch how I represent this. 2, then you open a bigger bracket. Then the minus 2 over here is squared. So put that one in the bracket before you square. The reason is whenever you just have minus 2 and you point it this way on your calculator, in your mind, you are seeing that, oh, it should have been, this thing should have been minus 2 times minus 2, which should be 4 in your mind. But whenever you point it this way to your calculator is seeing this as negative of 2 squared. That's what the calculator sees. He is saying negative of 2 squared. So the calculator is rather going to punch minus into bracket 2 times 2 for you, and the calculator will give you minus 4. And if you don't take Since it's a calculator that gave me the answer, you are just going to accept it, but it is totally wrong. Totally wrong. So anytime you want to punch the square, the cube, any power of a negative value, then it is important that that particular value must be placed in a bracket before you apply the power. Okay, so here, if I want to punch this, just like I've shown you there, you have to put the -2 in bracket before you square. If it is cube, you need to put it in bracket before you cube it. And it goes on and on like that. But if it is positive value, you can decide to ignore the bracket as we ignored it over here. But negative, it must be placed in a bracket before the power is applied. Okay, so that is why I'm particular about this question here. So the rest, the idea simply goes on like how it used to. We have a 2x squared taken care of, and then we have 6x, so we just put the -2 into it. Then we are having 6 minus 2, then you bring your constant, -5. So at the end of the day, -2 squared is just -2 times -2, which is going to be a positive value 4. Every even power of a negative value will give you an even number. That is also a good and noteworthy thing. If you have a negative value and the power is even, you are going to get a positive value. Okay? You are going to get a positive value. So negative with an even power will give you a positive result. Okay. So, yeah. This is just going to be 2 multiplying 4 plus 6 or -2 minus 5. So at the end of the day, 2 times 4 is going to give me 8. And then, so let me write it, 8. Then 6 times -2, this is going to give me -12. And then -5 will come. So simply, -12 minus 5 will give me -17. Then 8 minus that is going to give me -9. Okay, -9. So simply, when you put 2 -2 into our function we have here, the image is just going to be -9. Same applies to when the function is cubic, same applies to when the function is linear, and all that. Okay? So in the very first task, you will be asked to find the images of specific values. Specific values, inputs, domains under a specific function. Then this is how it should be done. Whatever function you are having there, the image that you are asked to find will be when you put in the value or the input into the function. Then you reduce it, and then the value or the result becomes what? Your image. Okay, very well. So we are done with the very first task, the easiest one in functions. And then, before I leave you, I'll leave you with an assignment. So your assignment is this. You can try it at your convenience, and then we have the numbers displayed below the video. If you have it and you want a specific review or questions, you can simply contact these numbers there, and then the administration or management of Kindebe College will respond to whatever challenge or task you have. We are always welcome to help you. Okay, So in our next video, we are just going to move on to finding the image when you are given a set of domain. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.